Incremental readings. Let's continue the Supermemo Course, the Pleasurable expansion. Now it's time for the default forgetting index. It's one of the element parameters, by the way.
How high are the chances that you're gonna forget that item? It's usually 10%. Okay, there's a 10% chance that you're gonna forget that item. And
notice, it's this column. He has 10. By default, when you start a new Supermemo collection, the default is set to 10%. The default forgetting index, requested forgetting index, can be from 3% to 20. 20% being the worst, you will forget the most, and 3% you will forget the least, but you will do more repetitions. You can adjust that. 3 and 20 are by design. This range is by design and is set to 10. But wait, did you notice one detail here? You have 10, which is the default, and DEF, default. It's not the same thing. I have a video on that, but just very quickly. Now the default is 10. This is a collection setting, by the way. If we go, Toolkit Options, Forgetting Index, Default, I have it at 12. Usually it's 10. It's here. And it's minimum 3, maximum 20%. It was, in my case, it was 12, right? Let me cancel. Okay. So now, if I open something, like here, now it says Forgetting Index 10 or Default. And default, it's 12 in my case. So every time that I go to Window, to Toolkit Options, and I modify it, let's say 8 now, it's not the same thing. This is 10, it's hard-coded, and this is pointing to the default value on your Toolkit Options. So it's not static. It will be the same in a practical sense if you never in your life change the default value. Then yes, it will be the same thing. And I have a video because it's more complex than that, because it depends if you do an extract, you duplicate an item, something like that. Don't necessarily stays 10 or default, because it's Supermemo at the end of the day. It's full of those little bugs. That's the video. It's 10 minutes. I'm more in depth because it's the requested forgetting index. Because the what I'm requesting is, hey, yeah, I want a 10% forgetting index. Doesn't mean it's the one I will get. Supermemo algorithm will try to adjust. If I'm performing worse, I will get lower intervals to compensate and achieve the 10%. And if I am overperforming, I recall more. Supermemo will even expand more and more the intervals, so I forget a little more. So remember, Ctrl+Shift+P to get the parameter windows, and you see here it says default 8. That's the key. If I change it back to 12, what it got, it will say default 12. You can change that, let's say 10. And now this is hard-coded. This is 10. It's not dynamic anymore. It's no longer the default. And yes, that means that if you really wanted to, you could customize default forgetting index per element basis, per item basis. Something I didn't mention, usually this only applies to items, the forgetting index, because it's the only active recall element type. So again, you can have the collection, default collection, but you can overrule per element basis that no, precisely this one, I want to be lower. Let's say that for me, I'm doing language learning, and it's a lot harder. Or about business, this is for my job, this is mission critical knowledge. I want a very low forgetting index. So what I could do is open this in the browser with Control Space. Now I want to filter only items. And now I process the browser. No worries, we'll see this in detail. But this is an advance because it's very important. And I can go forgetting index. I can reset it. So this will apply whatever the default is in the collection. Let's do that. 100 conversions. So basically, it's not setting the default value. It's setting the default pointer. So my default, it's 8. But it's not setting 8%. It's setting a point to the default value. So that's something you can do if you want to modify the default value. Is, oh yeah, I had a lot of 10s hard-coded. Move to the 10s to the default, and now change the default to 8 or 12, whatever. And that we can do this right now already. Is the other option. Set forgetting index. Remember, you have 3 and 20. This is mission critical. I want 5% forgetting index. Yes, please. And here you go. Now I have a forgetting index of just 5 that Supermemo will optimize. So based on my performance, forgetting index of those elements should be close to 5, even though collection-wise is set to a different number. I think no other app has this. Usually it's global per collection, which is also the case, but you can do it per flashcard. So that is a property that you can anytime go to the element parameters and change it. Remember, from 3 to 20. If you go, for instance, 2, that is too low. It's wrong, I will be changed to the minimum, number 3. And the opposite, also the case, if I want a forgetting index of 33, it will tell me, hey, it's wrong. And it will set the maximum, which is 20. Cool, right? Remember, default forgetting index, requested forgetting index, and much later in the course, we will see in the stats, the measured forgetting index, the one you actually got. That's all you need to know for now. See you in the next video.